Welcome here to you in the audience here at the Oval and Shoreditch, and welcome to all of you who are joining online. It is my great honor today to talk to you about mainly two things. Firstly, about the vision that we at Adobe have for Creative Cloud and how all of this is coming together. And also talk to you about the announcements that we've made at Adobe MAX, which was just a few weeks ago. So before we start, maybe just a quick note about what Adobe MAX is. You said 12,000, I say 13,000. There were really a lot of people at Adobe MAX. Adobe MAX is the world's largest creativity conference, and that's where our Adobe community comes together to learn, to share ideas, and to get inspired. There's various keynotes, there's sneaks, there's hundreds of sessions that people can attend. And this year, it was in Las Vegas. Next year, it will be back in Los Angeles. So those of you who want to come to Adobe MAX, please plan to come next year in October in Los Angeles. So yeah, like I said, this year was the biggest MAX conference ever with 13,000 people from 62 countries. And there's hundreds of thousands of people who have actually viewed the keynotes on our live streams as well. Before I start talking about what we've announced at MAX, maybe I should take a step back and talk a little bit about how we view the creative community. First of all, who is creating is changing these days. And thanks to devices and social media platforms, photos and videos have really become the mainstay of communication, really democratizing creativity. And basically, everybody today has the potential in them to become a visual storyteller. The second thing is that how we create is changing as well. Creation is really changing from I create to we design together. Collaboration is becoming more and more important. There's so much more contact between creatives that work together. And it's really important that anyone is enabled to work in open or closed collaboration systems. And also, for us as consumers, everything is changing because we want experiences that are intelligent, that are rich, and very soon, very virtual experiences as well. And we want to experience those wherever we are, whenever we want to. So this really has increased the demands that creative professionals are getting to create their content for their customers. And we call this content velocity, the fact that content is being asked for at an increasing speed. And speed is, of course, something that we need to address in our products. So against this backdrop, let me show you how we address these 3 points to actually develop the Creative Cloud for this new release. For the MAX release, there are really three different themes. The first theme I want to address is next generation experiences. And basically, we're introducing a whole bunch of new Creative Cloud applications that are enabling designers to work in a connected cloud workflow. We've also announced major improvements in performance, simplifying existing workflows, and that's also for our products like our flagship products like Photoshop and Illustrator, for example. The second theme, and here I come back to content velocity, is really accelerating your creativity. You know, from learning to live streaming to user assets to marketplace assets, to working solo, to working in a group. We are making it easier for people to work the way they have to and the way they need to. And basically that means making their work available whenever they want it and wherever they want it. And my third point is Adobe Sensei, and I also say Adobe Sensei, our master in the cloud. Adobe Sensei is our artificial intelligence and machine learning platform that brings together big data and image science to help creators from concept of their work to creating amazing experiences. And with this release, we've added the power of Adobe Sensei, of this machine learning, of this artificial intelligence to more applications across the Creative Cloud. Just to give you a little bit of insight of where Adobe Sensei is today, we can already see that Adobe Sensei, the artificial intelligence, is already working on many parts of our applications. And that goes from searching images in Lightroom, which I can show in a little bit. Find similar fonts in InDesign, which also relies on artificial intelligence. And the latest feature maybe is the lip syncing feature in Adobe Character Animator. So this blending of art and science is really deeply embedded in our DNA, and this is really what drives us at Adobe to innovate more and more at every release. Let's get started. So, like I mentioned, this Max release was our biggest release since we first introduced Creative Cloud 5 years ago. I remember 5 years ago I was here in London launching Creative Cloud, and it feels like ages ago. Was anybody there at the first Creative Cloud event? Somebody there. Okay. Oh yeah, you would have been. So this time around for this Max release, we really updated all of our Creative Cloud apps, desktop apps, our mobile apps, and also all of our services. And if you look closely to these application icons, you'll notice there is a few new icons there as well. And I'm really proud to introduce to you 5 new apps that have come in the past weeks to the Adobe Creative Cloud. And these apps have come to the Creative Cloud principally based on community-driven feedback. So there's applications across design, video, and photo. And I'm going to start with Adobe XD. XD is an application that is built for an end-to-end user experience, user interface design workflow. Then we have Adobe Dimension. I'm going to talk a little bit more about all of these in a second. Adobe Dimension, which makes it easier for graphic designers who are used to work in 2D, in the 2D space, to work with 3D objects. And then we also have Adobe Spark. Adobe Spark is a series of applications that allow users to be creative very quickly using their mobile applications or their desktop, their web browsers. And we've introduced some premium features to Adobe Spark which enable users to remove the Adobe branding, the Spark branding, from these posts or videos or pages, and to add their own branding, their own logo, their own colors. For video, we're releasing a brand new application called Character Animator, which brings 2D puppets designed in Photoshop or Illustrator to life. And for photography, we have an all-new Lightroom Cloud photography service. So let's focus on design to begin with. Starting with XD. XD was initially sneaked at Adobe MAX 2 years ago. And since then, we have been building the application, and over the past 18 months, we've been working with a public beta that the community really enjoyed working with and gave us a whole bunch of very good feedback that actually allowed us to create this 1.0 version. Basically, Adobe XD is an all-in-one cross-platform UX, UI tool for designing, prototyping, and sharing engaging user experiences. It enables designers to share prototypes, gather feedbacks from within the app, and also to show it to their customers without leaving the app, and without the needing for uploading, syncing, or jumping back and forth between services. So we're super excited to have Adobe XD in the 1.0 version into designers' hands since a few weeks back, and we're super excited to see what you guys will be doing with Adobe XD. So just 1 month ago, we released this 1.0 version of Adobe XD. Today, actually, there was an update to Adobe XD with some of features that were highly requested by the community. One of them is layout grid. Designers really wanted to have a way to have columns on their XD designs to more easily place their graphics on the page. And we're also introducing a new beta inside of the 1.0 version of XD called Design Specs. And basically, that's a way for XD users to actually export their XD file so that developers have all of the information they need to actually create the app. And that includes colors, fonts, positioning, pixel perfect placement of images. And also some text enhancements. For example, when you copy and paste from, when you create a new text box, it will take the formatting from the last text box that was created. Previously known as Project Felix, we're also launching Adobe Dimension. And like I mentioned before, it's an application for designers that are used to the 2D world to get into the 3D world. And designers can now create photorealistic renderings for packagings, products, or branding, and or be completely creative with 3D objects that are created either in Photoshop or 3D applications. Adobe Dimension simplifies this ingress from 2D designers into the 3D world basically through 3 things. A very easy to use interface, an interface that looks familiar, that feels familiar, and that has a lot of visual cues and tools to help users understand how to work with 3D objects very quickly. Second, it is also highly tightly integrated with Adobe Stock, because Adobe Stock now provides a complete marketplace also for 3D objects that can be purchased through Adobe Stock and placed into a Dimension file. And that also includes materials that can be downloaded from Adobe Stock as well. And Adobe Sensei is in there as well, because Adobe Sensei will actually place the 3D images on the 2D image, understanding how the 2D image works and putting the correct light on it with features like auto lighting, auto horizon, putting the perspective correctly, and much more. So super interesting new application, Adobe Dimension. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we have Adobe Spark, and we introduced that last year. And today we have over 7 million people actually using Adobe Spark to tell their stories, be that in a pages format or a video format or a post to social media. And like I mentioned last month, we also introduced this premium feature that enables you to create a branded version of your Spark posts and assets, meaning that you can put your own logo, your own color scheme, your own fonts into your social media strategy, into your pages, into your videos. And all of these Spark premium features that I just mentioned are part of your Creative Cloud subscription. We've also made significant improvements to Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, of course, our flagship products for creation. In Photoshop, for example, we've reimagined completely how brushes work. I'm going to show you that in a second. And it's got a completely new interface for organizing, finding, and using brushes inside of Photoshop. And there's also a new, very cool new brush smoothing feature that allows you to create very simple, very smooth strokes and curves inside of Photoshop. In Illustrator, one of my favorite new features is the contextual properties panel, which allows you to access all of the information you need about anything that is clicked on your artboard. So if you select text, the Properties panel will show you text features. If you select an object, it will show you colors, path, and things like that. So it's really a really more intelligent way to access the features inside of Illustrator without having to open a gazillion different panels left and right to work on your illustration. And plus, we've made Illustrator 30% faster at startup. So that's also something we work on. Every version, we try to make the apps faster and snappier so that we can start working. Now, let's move to video. And that's a fast-growing category. And Adobe, of course, is very present in that market with the world's most powerful video tools. And capturing and creating and sharing videos is really exploding, and there's all these new rich experiences like VR that are also coming into the panorama of video. So we really need to push the envelope of innovation also on our video products. And at Max, we're releasing a lot of innovation to really accelerate creativity for video creators of all walks of life. First of all, like I mentioned, Adobe Character Animator is a 1.0 release since Max. And this is also an application that we sneaked at Max over 2 years ago. And the audience loved it so much that it really pushed the development teams to work on the application and make it a real one, so something that everybody can work with. And basically what Character Animator does, it lets you use 2D puppets that you might have created in Photoshop or Illustrator and animate those using voice, facial expression, and gestures. And it works seamlessly together with Premiere and After Effects. So these animations can be used in both of these applications. And the 1.0 version also includes, again, powered by Sensei, a whole new way of understanding your lip movement to make better lip syncing while talking to your character that you might animate in Character Animator. In Premiere and After Effects, there's also very many new features. For example, in Premiere, but also in After Effects, we've made it much simpler to work with 360 video or VR video to enable creators to actually work faster, to cut these videos in a more meaningful way, to add graphics using After Effects into this 360 space. Also, in After Effects, we've worked a lot on making the app faster on the GPU level, making things like render layer transformations, and also motion blur much faster inside of the application. And last but not least, we're also releasing team projects. That's for Creative Cloud for Teams or Enterprise, which is a new way for video teams to collaborate together on a video edit and to really understand what everybody's doing when and how and what changes have been made. Let's shift to photography. Of course, Adobe has been present in the world of photography since Photoshop came to life. That's a very long time. What is it? 25 years now. A long time ago. And we introduced Photoshop Lightroom 11 years ago. So that's also a long time ago. But when we introduced when we introduced Lightroom, basically that was the boom of DSLR cameras, and photographers had the urgent need to be able to manage not only hundreds of files, but thousands of files, of image files, very quickly to be able to work on them. And Lightroom has since become, the leading choice for photography on the desktop. And as phones have become the primary capture, creation, and sharing device, the challenges for photographers have changed along the time in these 11 years. On average, the volume of photos that we need to deal with has exploded, and we really want to work on our photos wherever and whenever we want to. We want to have access to them at all times. We don't want to wait to get back to the desktop and start working on the photos. Therefore, while the current Lightroom product, of course, is the leading app for a desktop-based workflow, it does not meet the standards that people expect in today's faster-paced world of photography. We needed a more flexible system. And this is where Adobe Lightroom comes in, Adobe Lightroom CC. It's a brand new cloud photography service. It's completely reimagined, redesigned, and rebuilt as a service with no compromise about the power of Adobe's world-class imaging technology. There's nothing that you can't do in Lightroom CC. Basically, it's a workflow that enables you to have your access to your pictures and work on your pictures wherever you are, whenever you are, wherever you are. That's the hard part to say. But basically, on your mobile device, on your desktop computer, on your tablet, and the Lightroom CC plan also gives users 1 terabyte of space to store their images. So basically, editing the images now happens in full resolution. There's no more proxies. It's really like working on the images themselves. I'm going to show you that in a second. And also, thanks to Adobe Sensei, it simplifies search and organizing images. How many of you actually put keywords on their images? Well, like timid little hands. Well, Adobe Sensei can now do that for you using natural language words. It recognizes things. It recognizes faces. It recognizes rocks, nature, sea, and then you can look for it, and you don't have to tag your pictures anymore. That's something perfect for me because I never took the time to tag my pictures, but now I can find them. The desktop version of Lightroom is not going away. It's now called Lightroom Classic. This is still something that we heavily invest in because we understand that many users still prefer their workflow on their desktop. So at Max, we've also announced a whole bunch of new features and enhancements for Lightroom desktop version called now Lightroom Classic. Let's now talk about new capabilities in the Creative Cloud, in the creative community, and the marketplace. Adobe Stock has now over 100 million assets across a really broad selection of content types. It's not only photos anymore. It's also video. It's motion graphics templates that can be downloaded for your video workflows. Graphics, vector graphics. It's also 3D objects and textures. It's really become a marketplace where not only you can buy, but you can also sell your creations using the service. And thanks to Adobe Sensei, we're also adding visual search to Typekit. For example, it's now possible to upload an image of a typeface to Typekit and say, find me similar fonts in Typekit and activate those for me. This is also something that we've added to the Capture app. Finally, let's talk about our most vibrant community, the Behance community. It has over 10 million members, and this is something where we really started to really enhance the service that we offer there by now streaming 3 days every week. It's Pacific time. It's probably from 5 to 2 a.m. here in the UK. We stream 8 hours per day from Tuesday to Thursday. Adobe Live is really a way for anybody to be able to sit behind an artist, a designer, photographer, a videographer, and really look at how they work together with us who are hosting these events. And well, to summarize it, basically we have 5 new apps in the Creative Cloud. We have a brand new Lightroom workflow, and also major updates to desktop, mobile, marketplace, and community. But now, show it, Rufus. Let's look at some stuff, how it really works. Let me escape out of here and go to Illustrator. One feature that I really enjoy is the new Puppet Warp tool in Illustrator. You can see here, this is really a vector illustration. If I double-click on it, you can see these are vectors that I can modify. Let's go back to the first layer. Let's select the object, and with the new Puppet Warp tool, I can now put several pins in here, and then you're not seeing? Oh, wow, what happened? Oh, oh, wow, thank you for telling me. Jesus, I just lost 2 minutes. Wait. Oh, come on. Oh, no, what is this? No, no, not calibrator, preferences. Here we go. And now, yeah, but where? Ah, there we go. Yeah, but now they're gathered here. Ah. Damn it. This is difficult. Ah, I love live. Let's. Arrangement, yeah, there we go. And mirror displays. Ah, there we go. Yeah. It's the simplest things, right? All right, so let's go back to Illustrator here, and basically what I've done, let me just put the right resolution here. Well, I can't find that anymore here. Let's make it bigger, like this. And basically what I've done, I've pinned, let me Command Z here. And what I'm doing is putting pins here on my vector illustration, and I can now move my vectors just like a puppet, just like I had in Photoshop, but it remains vector art, and that's super cool. So this is great for animation, for moving objects around on the page. Another thing that I really enjoy is, like I mentioned, let's just zoom into this page, for example, is the new Properties panel, because the Properties panel allows me to very quickly access everything I need whenever I'm clicking on something different. So when I select the text, for example, I get all the text things. If I select a vector object, I just get the appearance, the colors, the stroke, etc., making it much easier for me to start working with those. And since we're talking about text, let me just select this text here and just show you a couple of new things that we have here. One is colored fonts that have been activated in Illustrator. So for example, let me go down here, let's find my Trajan color. Where is it? Down here. Here we go. SVG font. Basically color fonts. That's something that we've introduced in Photoshop, and basically that lets designers create fonts with color that can be applied here. And one thing that I also love is, let me just move out of here and go back to my text and select maybe this variable font. And the variable font actually lets me decide on the go the weight of my font. And this is not distorting the font, because I see graphic designers in the whole world cringing already. You're distorting fonts. No, I'm not distorting fonts. This is actually designed like that by the font designer. Okay, so basically these are all the variations of the font from thin to thick, or from condensed to extended. All right, so access to all of these new things enable us to be much more creative. Let's move on to Photoshop very quickly, and let me show you one feature that that I really love. Let me just open this shoe design concept for a second. It is the new brushes panel. So, for example, when I take my brushes here, and you remember how brushes were? If I go here to my brushes, you know, the list was going on and on and on and on. It was really difficult to actually work with brushes. Now I can here. I can now go in here and brush settings. Now brushes, where's my brushes panel? Oh yes, I can now organize my brushes in folders, all right? And the really cool thing, since Max, those of you who do illustration in Photoshop will love this, because I can import brushes, get more brushes, and basically that takes me to a new page where I can download all of Kyle Webster's brushes, all right? Because Kyle Webster is now an Adobe employee. We got all the brushes, and we're giving them to everybody in the Adobe Creative Cloud. So there's watercolor brushes, there's crosshatches, there's a gazillion different brushes. So Photoshop has just become much more powerful. And these same brushes also work on Adobe Photoshop Sketch on the iPad. Let me move on to Lightroom very quickly. Lightroom CC. Let me go full screen here. And let's open an image, for example. This is the desktop version of Lightroom CC. And here I can very quickly go in here, change the exposure of pictures. Maybe I want to make this picture black and white. Maybe I want to add a gradient here. Let me see. Let me add a gradient to make the sky more dramatic. And let me also make the contrast. The exposure, let's put the exposure down. I didn't select. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And the cool thing is that once I've applied these settings on a picture in Lightroom CC, this will be propagated across the cloud to all of my devices. So if I open Lightroom CC on my phone, the image will have the same settings. And I can then also copy that setting and put it on other images, etc. So Lightroom CC is really a new way of working. One last thing, I think I'm almost done with my time, is Adobe Dimension. And I'm going to create a new project here. This is the application that lets 2D designers start to dabble in the world of 3D. And basically, all it takes you is to import your 3D objects. It can be an OBJ object from your 3D creator, or use any of these images that are already in Adobe Dimension, or download 3D objects from Adobe stock. So very quickly, I can take an object, place it here, and that's my paper bag, for example. And then I can take maybe a logo, and drag that logo onto the bag. I can then move the logo around. I can turn it. Let me just. I can stretch it like this. And turn it up here. There we go. All right, something like this to have the signature straight. And then if I use my 3D tools here, I can really start looking at the object with my logo that I've just created on a 3D object. But then I can also take, and this is where Adobe Sensei comes into place, I can take a table, for example, put that as a backdrop, and say, match the image, environment lights, sunlight, perspective, match image, okay. And it'll actually understand the perspective of the image, and then I can move that onto the table. The shadows are there already. I can then render that scene, open it in Photoshop, work on it a little bit more, and also here I have a little render preview that actually shows me the object on the table, and it's rendering there as well, so I can always check how this is actually working. That's pretty cool. And with that, my friends, my time is over. But